United States, Kamala Harris.
Everyone, greetings. And Linda, I want to thank you for all you do to support these extraordinary student athletes. And it is good to be here with so many leaders, including, of course, members of Congress, members of our administration, and our extraordinary athletes. Our President, Joe Biden, wanted to be here today. He is feeling much better and recovering fast, and he looks forward to getting back on the road. And I wanted to say a few words about our President. Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office. And I first came to know President Biden through his son, Beau. We worked together as attorneys general in our states, and back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. He would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. The qualities that Beau revered in his father are the same qualities that I have seen every day in our president. His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big heart, and his love, deep love of our country. And I am firsthand witness that every day our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation. And so with that, on behalf of our President and Dr. Biden, I am honored to welcome all of you to the White House to celebrate the achievements of these great athletes. Every one of them is a national champion, a national champion. In America, tens of millions of people play a sport as a child, and the best of the best grow up to become national champions. Here today, we have 7 undefeated teams, 11 repeat champions, and 20 first-time winners. Talking about you guys. Some of you have represented our nation on the international stage in World Cups and World Championships. And later this month, 6 of you will represent our nation at the 2024 Olympics in Paris. As members of Team USA, you are ambassadors for our nation, and with pride we will cheer you on. And we look forward to congratulating you when you bring home the gold. So to all of our athletes, I know it was not easy to make it to this moment. Each of you has faced challenges and obstacles, and you have endured. You have fought back and fought through. By doing so, you demonstrated that true greatness requires more than skill. It requires grit and determination. You all know what it means to commit and to persevere. And you know what it means to count on teammates. During the course of a long season, sports teams become a family. You rely on each other. You develop relationships that will last a lifetime. And you make the people around you better in every way. And when you play, you inspire people across our nation. You remind all of us what can be achieved with hard work and ambition. And of course, none of you made it here alone. Today, you are surrounded by the people who stood by you every step of this journey, the folks who support you on and off the field, your friends, your family members, your coaches, your trainers, and teachers who for years have cheered you on. So today, again, let us give them a round of applause. And in conclusion, I say to our athletes, congratulations again on all you have accomplished, and good luck on all that is to come, wherever you all go from here. You will always, and know this, you will always be champions, and we will always be so proud of you. And so now it is my honor to welcome to the stage Jordan Dudley, who plays on the Florida State University women's soccer team and our U20 women's national team. Please welcome Jordan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jordan Dudley, and I'm a member of the 2023 National Championship Florida State soccer team. Thank you, President Biden and Vice President Harris, for this wonderful opportunity to visit the White House and to celebrate the achievements in college athletics. My freshman year at FSU was a dream come true. I played with and against the most talented women in college soccer. None of this would have been possible if it wasn't for the support of our administration, coaches, and athletic staff at FSU. They provided the resources to help us succeed in the classroom, in sports, and in life. The family environment created by my teammates helped us push each other to achieve our team goals, including earning the program's 4th national championship after an undefeated season. We all know the demands of being a college student athlete has its challenges, but reaching the end of the season with a trophy in hand made all of our hard work, studying, and training worthwhile. Congratulations to all of my fellow athletes for your hard work and accomplishments. You've achieved the dream of many, thus inspiring the next generation as they work towards their goals. My challenge to each of you today is to always find that something that keeps you motivated and inspired. And once you find that something, use it to inspire and encourage those around you and future generations. To the Biden-Harris administration, thank you again for this unforgettable opportunity.
Well done.
Now you understand why this is called a press gaggle? Come on up, guys. Gals. Well, first let me say thank you for being here. We felt like it was critically important before we sit down and have questions of the relevant leaders who made decisions that fateful Saturday evening that we walked the ground. And it has been enlightening, to say the least. I think the members would agree. For example, where this tree is obstructing the view of the top of the building, things like that. Where perimeters were located, who had responsibilities at each of those perimeters. But it probably created more questions than answers today, although there's some glaringly obvious things that were seen when you walk the ground. But what we're doing here is building that question list as we sit down and talk to each of the leaders who made decisions about providing the security for the president that day. So this was incredibly beneficial. And the goal here is to make sure this never happens again. So this is an after-action review that we're in the process of, and we're doing it very similar to I'm flight surgeon in the Army, and we did crash investigations where you would go back and look at the various phases of what happened. That's how we broke it down today. And we looked at the intelligence, that nation-state intelligence phase. We look at the preparatory, the rehearsal phase of this, the actions that occurred during the event, and how the preparation and planning impacted that, and of course the post-event activities and how the Secret Service has responded are what we're looking at. That's sort of the phases of everything. I've got a great team on my committee. And my committee has law enforcement, it has ex-special operators, it has county mayors who have run EMS and run SWAT teams under their watch, bring a lot of experience to this, and we've had some great conversations. I know I want to leave most of the time here for your questions, but I also want them to say a few words. And I'm going to bring up first Mike Kelly, who is the representative of this area, to just say a few words.
Well, thank you, Chairman Green, and I want to thank all members of Homeland to be here to take a look. I mean, the old saying is the American people have the right to know, and we have the responsibility to get the answers for them.
That's right.
This is where I've grown up. This is where I've lived my whole life. For Homeland Security to come now and take a look at what happened and reassure the American people that this is never going to happen again. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And to the members that are here, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Chairman.
I'll turn it over to Mike McCall, who's the chairman of Foreign Affairs and also our ranking Republican on the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Green, for inviting us here. When I was a federal prosecutor, chairman of this committee, now Foreign Affairs, to actually go see the site where a crime happens is so valuable. And I think that's the experience the members had here today. As we walked around, we actually were the first group to go up on the rooftop where the suspect was to see what view he had of the president. There is a tree obstructing, but there's also wide open purview between the second counter snipers and the suspect. We have a lot of questions. Were requests made for additional agents given the Iranian threat? How about, the outside the perimeter? Were communications made with local law enforcement? All these things could answer a lot of vital questions, but one thing's for sure, it's way too close. Being up on that rooftop, looking at where the president was relative to the roof is so close for a sniper. And then final question is, why in the world wasn't anyone up on that water tower, which is the spot? You're going to hear from a member who's a former sniper to tell you about that. But that water tower really surveils the entire landscape, but yet no one was there. So I want to thank Chairman Green. We have a lot of questions. We're going to get to the truth because the American people deserve it. Thank you.
I think our vice chair of the committee, Michael Guest.
What happened here last week was unacceptable. The Secret Service has one primary mission: to protect our elected officials, and they failed. This was a failure in planning, a failure in execution, and a failure in leadership. We've learned since the shooting occurred that President Trump's security detail repeatedly requested additional resources which were denied. Those lack of resources required Secret Service to depend more heavily on local law enforcement. And we know that the Secret Service failed to secure a strategic location with a direct line of sight to where the President was speaking. In light of these failures, I join many other members of Congress in calling for the resignation of Director Cheatham. She must resign immediately for the good of the country and for the good of the department that she serves, the Secret Service. To the American people, I want you to know that we will not rest until you get the answers that you need and deserve. Thank you.
All right, by rank, I think Carlos Jimenez is up next. Speaking of county mayors who oversaw some SWAT teams.
Thank you. My name is Carlos Jimenez, and not only was I county mayor of Miami-Dade, I was also the sheriff of Miami-Dade, but I was also a member of the SWAT team when I was on the fire department. And so I had countless briefings whenever dignitaries came into my community to how we were going to protect them. And I can tell you that just looking at the site immediately, there are things that just hit you. And the fact that those things weren't covered is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And so I was on the roof that the director said it was really dangerous for Secret Service and other personnel to be on. I'm 70 years old. There's nothing unsafe about that roof. And so, you know, I'm going to be calling for her resignation too. To actually come up with an excuse like that, she should do better than that. So, a lot of questions, but there are things here that are obvious failure of Secret Service. And I put it on Secret Service because they're responsible not only for the inner perimeter, but also advising and telling and directing all the other agencies exactly what it is they need to do in order to secure the scene. And so, you know, with that, I'm looking forward to the hearings, and I want to thank our chairman for putting this together.
Thank you, Chairman Green. We are here today for two reasons. The first is that we need answers about what went wrong, about how this could have occurred. And the second is that we need to ensure that it can never happen again. That when President Trump travels or other dignitaries who are within Secret Service protection travel, that they can be sure that they are going to be kept safe. We've developed a lot of questions here today. As you've heard, the site is very small. The perimeter is something that should have been secure. It's evident that this shooter was allowed to get very close to President Trump. There are a lot of explanations that America requires and that this committee requires and that we will be getting going forward. We also should take a moment today. We had with us many local elected officials and leaders in this community. And the other thing that is clear is how awful this experience, how traumatic this experience has been for them. That they came out on a sunny afternoon to attend a rally, and in many cases their lives were torn apart. They were friends and neighbors out for the day who have been subjected to this awful, awful criminal act. So we are here as a committee, as Republicans in Congress, we are committed to do our part to ensuring that this is prevented, something like this, we get the answers that we need, and that something like this can never happen again. So I thank all of the folks who welcomed us here today to make sure that we had access to this important information.
You don't have to be a security expert to see the massive number of vulnerabilities. Most people are seeing in the visuals 3 and 4 buildings. For those that I would encourage the media to get a view of the 30 buildings that are within 500 yards of where President Trump was speaking. And there were so many vulnerabilities. In addition to the water tower, we as members of Congress have drones above us right now. Why were there not drones being able to spot not only the vulnerability of the building where the shooter was, but the 30 different potential locations where our president could have been taken out from? That question needs to be asked to the 3 female advanced Secret Service agents who for a week were making decisions to stage this area, pass down information to their superiors. We need answers to know why in the world so many vulnerabilities in the outer perimeter were allowed to exist.
Thank you guys for coming today. Thank you, Chairman Green, for bringing us out here. Obviously, this was a catastrophic failure. Everybody in America knows that. Unfortunately, everybody around the world knows that, including some of our adversaries that would love nothing more than to take out our leadership, whether that leadership is Democrat, independent, or Republican. I was a former Navy SEAL sniper myself. As soon as I got out of the vehicles and I saw that water tower over there, I started asking, hey, why wasn't it one of the counter sniper teams in that water tower? As we made our way across the field, got up on the roof, I could tell that if any of our counter sniper teams were up on that water tower, this individual wouldn't have made it 5 feet. So we have a bunch of questions like that. And then when we hear the director of Secret Service say that roof was too sloped for a team to get up on top of, several of us just walked up on top of it. Matter of fact, we have a 70-year-old member who just walked up it, no problem whatsoever. So we already know we're being gaslit and we're being lied to. That's what this is about. Anytime you conduct an investigation, the first thing you want to do is get on the ground and get eyes on the site. That's what we're doing here today, like Chairman Green said, to make sure that this never happens again. And I hope and pray that there's some accountability within the Secret Service and at leadership, because when the director says the buck stops with me and then she says I'm not resigning, it tells me and the rest of this committee she doesn't even know what that means. Any good leader having something like that happen on their watch would resign immediately to take pressure and focus off an institution that used to be revered and great. Thank you.
So I'm sure you guys saw the press release that my team put out this morning demanding the resignation of Director Cheadle. Not only this explanation about the roof, but also misleading Congress, saying that the Trump team didn't ask for additional resources. The list of reasons she should resign is very long. And, you know, I reiterate what my colleagues have said. It's the right thing to do. She needs to step down. I will tell you that, you know, Secretary Mayorkas has the opportunity to take her out of that position if she chooses not to. When I was in I served as the flight surgeon for our Tier 1 assets in Iraq and Afghanistan. Someone messed up, they were gone in a second. And that's that. If you're an elite unit, which the Secret Service should be, that's what happens when you screw up. You're fired. And she needs to go. Now, with that, I'd like to open it up to your questions. Well, I can tell you that where the FBI collected evidence is pretty revealing, but I'll leave that to them to disclose. There are many different access points. The way that building, if you get an aerial view of it, and I'm sure you guys have, we've seen your reporting, the aerial view will show you how that building is broken with connecting tunnels to different buildings. It would be very simple to get up on another spot remote from the building he shot from and traverse over multiple different roofs to get there. It's very simple to see that. So the exact access point, I probably shouldn't disclose that. Let the FBI do that if they want to do that. But it's very simple. The point it makes, though, is that that's a vulnerability. Someone should have had eyes on that building all the way around outside, so no one ever got on top of that building.
In your view, if a counter sniper had been on that water tower, he would have been spotted right away.
He would have seen anybody on top of the building. There would be blind spots on access to the top of the building, but from the tower, you would have seen anyone getting on top of that building. Yes, sir.
Ted Williams, Fox News. Prior to the shooting, were you all able to determine whether there was a breakdown in communication with law enforcement?
So some of the things we learned today, normally the local law enforcement guys are allowed to sit in the Secret Service. So they had two battlefield, as we called them in the Army, tactical operations, basically the control areas, the control room where the leadership sits and monitors the actions. And the local guys and state guys had their own, and then the Secret Service had their own. And normally they put a person from the locals in the Secret Service area. Today the locals shared with us that they were not allowed to have anybody in there. So that makes you want to dig a little further, right? And in terms of radio communications, from what we could tell today, and we need to get some clarity, some granularity on this, there was very limited communication between the locals or the outer perimeter and the inner perimeter.
Chairman, you talk about you talked about a tree that was obstructing the view. Can you talk about what you saw once you were up on the roof? If there was anything, in fact, that was blocking the
So in terms of the line of sight from the top of the building, there's a very good tree that blocks the guys. I guess if if the president is facing 12 o'clock, it would be to his, 4 or maybe 4 or 5 o'clock position. And then he'd have one over sort of on the 8 o'clock. So if you can kind of visualize that, the person on the 4 o'clock could not see the shooter because of the tree. And that's why I think it was building 18. From building 18, the counter sniper actually engaged and killed the shooter. That I think answers your first question. I've not been tracking, obviously, the hearing as it's going right now. We've been out here focused on this purely. But, I mean, if the buck stops with you, as Congressman Crane said, you got to own the responsibility. This was a massive failure. You can't say it's a massive failure, I own it, and not take action and step down. And I think she should step down. That has to be our last question. We're going to turn it over to Ranking Member Thompson. And I want to just say I appreciate he and the Democrat members coming out here. I've enjoyed listening to their questions, and I'll let them come up now and share a few words.
My name is Benny Thompson. I'm the ranking Democrat on the Homeland Security Committee. We're here with Chairman Green and my Republican colleagues to look at what happened here in Butler. But primarily our responsibility is to provide oversight on the select Secret Service and ultimately help them fashion policies so something like this never happen again. We talked to the sheriff, the chief, township supervisors, and others to try to get a picture of what happened before, during, and after this event. Some of the facts speak for themselves, but what we have to do is figure out how do we get it right. Some of us are just members of Congress. We're not experts. But for us to have the vision of seeing what happened that day is important because we have a hearing tomorrow. In that hearing, a lot of what we heard today will ask the witnesses so that we can get a better understanding. Obviously, it's a matter of resources, it's a matter of coordination, and it's a matter of communication. We have to make sure that as we look at the system, that the system and its failures can be corrected, but also working with state and locals to make sure that when a presidential candidate or president or some high-value individual comes to your community, you will have the best protection for them possible. So it's a matter of coming here as Democrats and Republicans on the committee to make sure that we look forward to making a difference. I now bring Lou Correa, who flew all night from California to get here for this event. If we had a little more notice, we could have had some other people, but Lou made the sacrifice of getting here in this short period of time, and we thank him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congressman Lou Correa, Orange County, California. You know, the last time we had an assassination attempt in the United States of a president or a candidate, a great Californian was president, and that was Ronald Reagan. And after that assassination attempt, the Secret Service went back and changed a lot of their policies, as they should. I'm going to echo a lot of the comments made by my Republican colleagues, but I'm not going to repeat them. But I am going to add one thought that I had as I was looking out in this area. Who's in charge? It's a question I want to ask. Who's in charge? Is it the Secret Service or is it the campaign? And I say that to you, imagine a situation out there, and I was talking to a couple of local folks, where maybe the Secret Service says, I want to set up a line of dump trucks behind that stage to essentially create a barrier. Would that happen or not? Would they be vetoed by the campaign, or is it going to happen? And I say that also because I'm hearing that other campaigns, other candidates for the president, other Secret Service situations have had the same question asked, and we're not too sure. At least I want to ask the question, who's in charge and who decides ultimately on the security issues, the security protocol when these events happen. Thank you very much.
If I might. My name's Glenn Ivey. I'm a former federal prosecutor. I'm also a congressman from Maryland. And I wanted to say that it was great to have an opportunity to come out here and tour the grounds, but it was especially helpful. I got Sam Zerzolo from Butler Township and Angela Flieger as a supervisor who were actually here that day at the time of the shooting, and they were able to provide me with photographs and videos of what was going on that day. And in addition, they were able to explain from the perspective of local officials what happens when all of a sudden a presidential campaign is going to show up in your locality to put on an event. And I think their explanations, their descriptions of what they went through and trying to prepare for that, I think are very enlightening. And I think point to a fact that whether it's with the Secret Service or local authorities, state police or whatever, we really need to reassess who gets to make the veto, as Lou sort of suggested, because I think there's a lot of issues here that probably strongly suggested we never should have had the event here to start with. That doesn't excuse the failures of the Secret Service that day. I think we definitely want to make sure we investigate those and get to the bottom of what happened that day. But for the takeaway for what we're going to do going forward, we're having these events in localities all over the country. And it's some presidential, some are candidates. We're about to have the Democratic Convention. I think there's another big event coming up with the UN at the end of the year. We've got to make sure we're in better sync so that we don't have scenarios where a security risk like this one takes place. And when I got here, I looked at all of the roofs that were around, and my count was around 12 or so. And I just thought maybe this isn't the best place to have done this. And the other parts, too, were just inability to have time to put together, just basic plans for like emergency activities. For example, she was scrambling to get that, and was it 250 plus heat-related illnesses that day? They were able to manage that, but the fact that they got such late notice, it was a problem. And then the one that struck me as really big was the day before the event, where they were coming to set up. I think it was like 50 people plus were coming to do work. None of them were vetted. And they were allowed to work on the stand and the stage and the like. Anything could have been done, frankly. So I think there are failures here that we need to make sure we take a look at and we're thorough about it. And one of my colleagues said previously, our adversaries are watching this. I'm not a big fan of scapegoating, so what I want to make sure we do is get the investigation done, get all of the information we can, draw decisions based on that. And if that means people get terminated, that's fine. If that means people get removed, that's fine. If that means policies get changed, that's what we're here to do. But let's do it the right way. Let's do it based on the information and the data and move forward from there.
Congressman Thompson, as you looked around today and learned what had happened, you got an idea of the scene. What jumped out to you as among the most glaring things that took you back and made you say, whoa, wait a minute?
Well, as both my colleagues have said, I'm not certain that this is the highest and best location for that type of activity to have happened. The fairground would have been a far better location. Facts about it. When the president was here as president, that's where he was located. We could secure it better. So there are some oversight things that we'll look at to make sure that these kinds of things will be coordinated with state and local officials. But my understanding at this point is they were told that we're coming to this location, and that's it. And it was this location, and that was it. So we will put some oversight into it, but we are not quite through with all of the gathering of information. But we are not reluctant, once we gather it, to make decisions. But we want to make sure we have all the information. Well, we share the sentiment that if once the facts are put together, that if in fact it is the Secret Service who failed the job, the person at the top is the one who has to pay the price. So that means that ultimately we won't defend a job that wasn't done. We're just, at this point, still fact-finding. We haven't even held a hearing. The first hearing goes tomorrow. And at some point, in the not-too-distant future, if facts point to this person, we will not hesitate at all to ask for her removal.
Who's in charge? Is it the campaign or the Secret Service?
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that the Secret Service at any point suggested that there were problems?
I'm asking a question that I don't know the answer to. Any of you know the answer? I'd love to hear it. But that's what the hearing is going to be about.
Yeah. We've not had a... Hold on just a minute. We've not had a single hearing on this situation. And so ultimately, when the process works its way, we'll be happy and to make a decision. But we have not had a hearing. And I think once those hearings are held, these gentlemen and others who've been here today won't have a problem making a decision. It's just that we're still in the information collecting stage. And once we get it, we'll go forward. Yes, sir.
Yes, and thank you. Congressman Ivey, if a venue is not the proper place to make or to have a rally like the president had, who should make that call? You have advanced Secret Service teams that come out to the venue, and should that advanced Secret Service team make the decision as to whether this is a safe venue for a rally?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it worked in this one, and that's one of the things we want to make sure we find out. I think ultimately the Secret Service should have the final call on it. I know there's an interaction between, I'm not saying specifically before this event, but sure, there's campaigns have a view, Secret Service has a view, even presidential details have disagreements with their members. So the members that I worked with previously frequently had Secret Service protection. They didn't always agree on what to do. But at the end of the day, I think it needs to be the Secret Service. But from my perspective, just in what I saw here, it shouldn't have been here. This just was not a good spot. Another thing they pointed out, for example, was blocking off the road over there. So the road that they used to get access to the top of that building shouldn't have been open. And apparently he parked his car over there and left the gun there. But I think you might have wanted to seal down more of this. If you're going to have it here, I don't agree with having it here, but if you're going to have it here, you need to seal down more of it and constrain the space so you've got less to worry about. And the other part, too, was the exterior part of the part that was covered had less protection. The bigger it is, the harder it is to cover, and the more people you need, and the fewer people they had.
You, Congressman, you are not a law enforcement professional.
I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would have had the thought that an advanced team of the Secret Service should have been able to come to this site and to make the same decisions that you have made vis-a-vis your own perception of this site.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but yes. I mean, I look around here and I see, like I said, 15 rooftops. And maybe get the water tower, maybe that would have been good, like Eli said, but even then you still have all these other ones on the other side. So I just didn't think this was a good site to have chosen.
We have time for one more question if the ranking member, for the ranking member. Is there anything you learned from some of the law enforcement that was present here today about the communication breakdown? Director Cheadle said during the hearing today that there was communication back and forth about 5 times regarding the presence of a suspicious individual, and that she doesn't know exactly how the communication broke down. Is there anything that you learned about that?
There's 2,300 Secret Service officers. They use the local law enforcement as a force multiplier. Communication, I learned today, was not as good as it should be. It's got to change.
And that was absolutely what we heard from the sheriff as well as the local chief of police, is that while there was communication, it was not sustained and as robust as it needed to have been. And the gaps obviously show because of what occurred.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have to go. Visited the site. I mean, what are your reactions to that?
That's a problem. That's a problem. if I were in charge of any of these gentlemen, they would have been here by now. So that just adds to the broader decision that we have to make as members of Congress. Thank you.
Oops, sorry. Came on tape. Is this you?